I never thought I'd hear my own voice calling me from the darkness. But that's exactly what happened one night at a remote lake in the Pacific Northwest. Me, Mike, and Sarah had been planning this trip for months. A completely secluded lake, deep in the Cascade Mountains. No tourists, no cell service, no people. Perfect spot to disappear from the world. We arrived Friday evening, found a flat clearing right by the water, set up our 3 tents in a triangle, and built a massive fire. The evening was perfect. Fresh-caught fish on the grill, cold beer, and non-stop laughter. We didn't crawl into our tents until after 2 a.m. I woke up like someone had shoved me in the chest. My phone said 2:03 a.m. At first, I thought I was just cold. But then I heard it. A quiet voice from the forest directly behind our tents whispered my name. Jake. Not shouted, not called loudly. Whispered, like the person was standing 10 feet away talking only to me. And it was my voice. Exactly my voice. Same tone, same slight rasp I get when I'm tired. I lay there holding my breath. A minute later, the same voice called Mike. Then Sarah, each time with a short pause. I woke the others. Mike sat up, rubbed his face, and said he'd heard it too. Sarah stayed silent, staring into the dark. We crawled out to the fire, threw on more wood. The flames lit up our faces. All 3 of us looked equally freaked out. We tried joking about it, searching for any logical explanation. Echo, animal, wind in the trees. But the wind doesn't say people's names. We stayed by that fire until sunrise, talking in whispers and constantly glancing at the tree line. When the sky finally started to lighten, we decided to stay one more day. Maybe it was just exhaustion and the dead silence playing tricks. Mike offered to go down to the lake for water. We agreed. He grabbed the bucket and walked off. 20 minutes passed. Mike came back smiling, saying the water was ice cold and crystal clear. But the smile was wrong. His eyes looked straight through us. All day he acted strange. He answered questions half a second late, kept trailing off mid-sentence, and stared into the forest behind us, instead of at our faces. That evening around the fire, we finally asked him straight up if everything was okay. He answered, "It's so peaceful in there, nobody bothers you." The words were his, but they sounded like someone else was using his mouth. That night I didn't sleep at all. I just lay there listening. At 3 o'clock, the voice from the forest called all 3 of us at once. This time it was much closer, almost right outside the tents. Mike stood up and walked straight toward the sound. We screamed at him to stop. He didn't even turn around. He came back only at dawn, soaked, covered in dirt, but smiling. He said he'd just gone for a walk. From that moment on, he barely spoke. He only repeated, "It's so quiet in there." We packed up in under an hour and left. Mike followed us in silence. 30 miles down the road, he suddenly asked, "Did you guys hear them calling my name?" We looked at each other. On the phone video I'd left recording by the fire, in complete silence, you can clearly hear 3 different voices whispering our names one after another, while the 3 of us were sitting right there, saying nothing. Mike still swears he doesn't remember anything after he walked into the trees. But sometimes when we talk on the phone, he'll go quiet and say, "It was so peaceful there." And I know he's not talking about the lake. I always thought I knew the mountains better than anyone, until the mountains decided to play a game with us. Last year, my buddy Chris and I decided to hike an old abandoned trail in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. The map said 4 easy hours, nothing complicated. We started early with perfect weather, sun, light breeze, views for miles. The first 2 hours were great. Then everything changed. We kept returning to the exact same twisted pine tree with a huge scar in the trunk. At first we laughed and figured we'd just looped back. We checked the GPS. It showed we were still moving forward on the trail. We kept going. An hour later, we were standing in front of that same damn tree again. This time, fresh carvings had appeared on the bark. We clearly remembered making only 2 small marks the first time. Now there were 6. And they were higher up, like someone had stood on someone's shoulders to carve them. We started getting nervous. We turned around to head back down. 40 minutes later, we were right back at the tree. The sun was already going down. We tried heading in a completely different direction. Same result. The tree was always waiting for us. The carvings kept appearing. Now they were forming letters. We could make out our names. The cuts were deep and rough, like someone had been carving in a hurry. We dropped our packs and ran downhill. Our feet slipped on wet grass, branches whipped our faces. We ran in total silence, hearing only our own heavy breathing. Half an hour later, we burst out onto the familiar clearing where the car was parked. Chris sat on the ground, hands shaking. We jumped in and drove away. Back home, while going through the photos, we found the last picture Chris had taken at that tree. In the background, slightly off to the side, stood a figure, a person in dark clothes. You couldn't see the face, but the head was turned directly toward the camera. We never took that photo, and neither of us was standing there. To this day, whenever I look at those pictures, chills run down my spine. Because the carvings on that tree keep appearing in newer shots, even though we never went back. We just wanted silence. Instead, we got something that still wakes me up at night. My girlfriend Emily and I rented an old wooden cabin deep in the forests of Oregon for a week. Cheap, with a big porch, a wood stove, and nothing but trees for miles. The owner said it was the perfect place to unplug. The first 2 days were exactly what we needed. Mushroom hunting, fresh air, 0 neighbors. On the 3rd night, I woke up to footsteps on the porch. Heavy, deliberate steps. Then 3 soft knocks on the door. Not aggressive, just a polite announcement that someone was there. I woke Emily. We sat in the dark listening. The footsteps continued for a minute, then stopped. I grabbed a flashlight, opened the door. On the wet porch were clear, barefoot footprints. They came from the edge of the forest, walked straight to the door, and went back into the trees. The next night we waited. At exactly 2:47, the footsteps returned. Same 3 knocks. The prints were closer to the door this time. On the 4th night, we stayed awake on purpose. At 2:47, the footsteps came right under our bedroom window. Then a man's voice, low and almost gentle, quietly spoke Emily's name. The voice sounded disturbingly familiar, like someone we both knew. We left the next morning. We didn't wait for a 5th night. Back home, I checked the rental listing. The cabin is still available. The most recent review, posted just 2 weeks ago, ended with, "Great place for peace and quiet. Only every night at the same time you hear footsteps on the porch. You never see anyone, but the footprints are always there." We never went back to that forest, and to this day when I wake up in the middle of the night, I still think I can hear those same slow, heavy steps on an old wooden porch somewhere far away.